Guys, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm happy to have you. So my previous subscribers, welcome back to the channel. So for today's video in particular, we're going to be talking about and discussing a multitude of different things, from resignation to being removed from power or office by impeachment, being taken out by the military, or whatever it is. We're going to be answering all those questions in today's video. We also do have a subscriber-based question, so we're going to answer that first. And then I figured, well, if I'm going to cover a topic similar to this, why not just group them and bundle them all into one video? And that's what we're going to do in today's video. The last time I spoke about Donald Trump and seeing Donald Trump being taken out of the White House was back in 2020. I want to see if the energy has been consistent or has it since then changed. So that's what we're going to find out in today's video. This video is just for entertainment and for educational purposes only as well. And if you want to help out the channel grow, you can do so by liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting the bell icon, engaging with the content, and sharing this video with others. Really helps boost the algorithm here on this YouTube channel. Now, if you go into the description where you go to subscribe, there's a little bell icon. And on that bell icon, I want you to select that and turn on all notifications so you can stay in the loop and be notified when I do post and upload. However, YouTube is very unreliable, and more than not, I have noticed consistently across all bases, is that YouTube does not notify you when I do post and upload. So don't worry, I do have a Blue Sky account and a Facebook group, which will also be listed not only in the comment section, but also in the description if you want to go ahead and check those out. And I will personally be the one notifying you because YouTube is very unreliable. Anyway, this is being recorded on Saturday, September 6th at 2:23 p.m. Eastern Standard Time as of when I'm recording this specific video. Alright, so there's a lot to get through in today's video, so we're just going to jump on into it. I don't like long intros, neither do you. And let's just get on with this. Okay, so the first thing is a subscriber that's been with me for quite a while. They submitted this question about 3 months ago, and So asked, specifically Social 1961, asked, do you see a presidential panel when Donald Trump is removed from office? I don't know exactly what that is, to be honest. I don't know how that would entail, so it's going to be all energy and intuitive based and see if it's even there. If there even is something. I did say in the past, I did do a video on remembering the United States years from now. What was that going to look like? What was history going to look upon this very moment? What was going to be remembered for? We also did remembering Donald Trump well after he died. What was going to be expected? What will be known for during Donald Trump's legacy? I will put the link in the description to those videos. And also I'll put them at the end of the video if you want to go ahead and check those videos out. But that's what I've seen, and also I did multiple 2 videos, and it has been pretty consistent over a long span of time, about 4 or 5 years. I covered about how Donald Trump is going to commit crime against humanity, and he's going to be held accountable for those only outside the jurisdiction of the United States. So let's go ahead, let's take a look. They want to know specifically about the presidential panel. I have no idea what we're walking into here, so to keep an open mind, I'm going to keep an open mind. It says here, do you see a presidential panel when Donald Trump is removed from office? Don't know exactly what that is, because remember, it's a multi-worded question, because it's asking the question essentially is, do you see something occurring when Donald Trump is removed from office? But what if he just leaves office? What if he just dies from office? So to keep that in mind, the context does matter and the wording does matter. Okay, so Spirit Angels tell me, my subscriber wants to know, will there be a presidential panel that will form around the time of Donald Trump's eventual term, whether he leaves early or, passes away, or it ends on time or as expected? Will there be a presidential panel around a time in which Donald Trump is no longer president? Will there be a presidential panel? I don't even think Spirit understands what that is, because I myself have no idea, so I'm just reading this intuitively, just going to decode what that could possibly be. Okay, so the bottom deck here is we have the 3 of Wands reversed. The 3 of Wands reversed is somebody overlooking the destruction of the United States, or better yet, this also was a card that clearly described overseeing democracy in action. This is reverse. The top of that, though, we have the two stores. It means uncertainty. That means this is telling me that if for whatever reason this specific reading says, hey, listen, there's going to be a presidential panel that's going to occur around the time Donald Trump is leaving office or is no longer being in office, they're saying that there is uncertainty here. There is not a clear path or direction to this specific question. Because the challenge to this is the transition. This is the agreement, the social contract between the American people and the government they're in. This is the social contract. This is the peaceful transfer of power. This is the voters handing power to one party or one individual from one to the next. This is what this card symbolizes. This is the challenge. The challenge to this question really is transition. And the first card that comes up is the Page of Swords. And the Page of Swords is an attempt to squash this contract, to squash this social norm, this societal expectation. It is almost like during the Enlightenment time period, during the 1700s, they were talking about like how it was very important for people around the world, for government to work for the people, for the citizens, and for them to seek out a social contract. But when that social contract is broken, the government cannot fix that trust in the government anymore, and therefore has to undergo massive changes. And you can kind of see here this Page of Swords, this guy is looking and taking that sword after he's cutting. He's like, I'm invincible, I'm strong, I'm powerful. But you are immature, you're young, you don't really understand what you did. You don't understand the ramification of this. But once you did it, you cannot undo it. And I can't help but notice the birds flying in the background, and it looks like a drumstick. Like it's all bone and flesh at this point, just the leg. I don't know why that came through, but that's what I'm getting. The next two cards that come co-joined together, we have the darkness. The darkness and the refusal to accept an outcome, accept a result. This is the Four of Cups reverse. The darkness and refusal to accept an outcome for what it really is. To accept a reality for what it truly is. That's what this Empress Hermit card reverse means. I keep saying Empress, but the Hermit card reverse and the Four of Cups reverse. It indicates that there is a refusal to accept something for what it is. And then that last card here is we have the Queen of Cups. It's always the fact that something's being kept an eye on, that people are being watched. That things are not as what they seem. That things may appear calm, but it's anything but calm. And here you have the angel trying to keep the lid closed. And this woman is watching very closely. She knows the lid is on there. She knows it's tight. But she's watching it anyway. She's watching it anyway. So to answer your question more specifically, will there be a presidential panel that will form around the time that Donald Trump leaves office? It feels like more than anything that it would be kind of crude to even consider that there will be a presidential office or a form of it anymore. And the reason for this is it simply says that there's a social contract. This is an agreement between the American people and its government. But because that trust has been broken, first of all, you have the Page of Swords, which clearly indicate an individual who just takes it and just destroys that trust completely. Because they believe that they are invincible, but they're immature about it. And here you have the darkness and the inability to accept for what it is, to accept the outcome for what it is, the reality of it, to question the reality. And here you have is the Queen of Cups, which symbolizes that things are okay, but things are not as they seem. You're being heavily watched. It's just surveillance. And this is the agreement between the people and its government. So again, the presidential panel wouldn't necessarily be a good idea, if anything. The presidential panel appears to me more than anything, more like a presidential cabinet, where advisors go and give advice to the President of the United States. That's what it is. That's what it feels like. But there doesn't seem to be any insinuation that there will be one. It doesn't tell me that. Now, if we were to look at it from a little bit more of a presidential panel perspective and try to take this from a different point of lens and point of view, we have here is this is the Two of Cups. And the Two of Cups in this instance, when answering the question from the perspective of the presidential panel, this would easily tell me that there is an agreement made between the American people and this panel to ensure the sanctity of the presidential office and its duties and its presidential powers to ensure that it has not been abused. That's what this means. The Page of Swords comes in as a brave new organization coming in to create change. This is what is promised. This is what is promised. But it comes in with this Hermit card reverse and the Four of Cups, darkness, and the refusal to accept something for what it is. So regardless, it does feel like they're going to uncover, just say from this perspective of the presidential panel, just say it was to be formed in this instance, then it will just mean that they're going to come across information that will be very damaging, not only to the presidential powers that they swore to protect, but also it will be very damaging for the United States and the country and its perspective and image on how it's perceived. And here you have it, the Queen of Cups. The Queen of Cups could be instituted as, and could easily be said that democracy was very close to being uprooted, to be dismantled. This could easily represent, the Queen of Cups could also represent that the presidential panel keep a very close watch on the presidential powers and duties to ensure that there is always someone who's being held accountable. This is what the Queen of Cups symbolizes. So in this aspect, you can read it both ways. You can read the environment, but you can also read how it might affect, in some aspects, how things might be perceived, especially from different lenses of views. Alright, so now that we have kind of like discussed this a little bit more, I want to go into other aspects as well. Specifically, in regards to, oops, you guys can't read it, but in regards to the impeachment, resignation, removal, presidential powers, presidential panel, which we already discussed, being dragged out or being, taken away, or death, possibly. We already talked about that, so I don't really think that's going to be necessary. That's why it's on the bottom. But we're going to start with the impeachment very quickly. Then we're going to go through resignation, removal, and then we're going to finish out with being dragged out, and possibly, if there's any more time, or Spirit says go ahead and do death, then we'll also cover death. Maybe assassination, maybe that could be the death, if that's even a possibility, but I really don't see that. Alright, let's take a look at the impeachment. Why do I feel like things are so close? It's like very weird. Okay. So anyway, Spirit Angels tell me, is there a possibility that during any time in Donald Trump's term as president or as dictator or as leader of the United States, will he be impeached and effectively removed? The question I'm asking is, will he be removed via impeachment? No. No. We have the Knight of Cups. The Knight of Cups is reversed. This is a proposition, and if it was to be an impeachment. So I did do an impeachment video many years ago, back in 2021. I specifically said how Donald Trump was going to go through at least 4 impeachment trials. He was going to get acquitted on the first, the second, the third, and he's going to get convicted on the fourth. But the fourth impeachment trial occurs after his death, and it's not more so to punish Donald Trump, but rather to set a precedent of what is acceptable, what is unacceptable from a president moving forward beyond Donald Trump's death. So that is when he gets convicted and charged, but nothing actually gets done. So in this instance, he's not held accountable for that, but he will be impeached for a third time while he's alive, and he will get acquitted in the Senate, but he will be impeached. So we're waiting to see when that happens, but I don't see a removal here. The cards have been pretty consistent. This has not changed. The card that comes out, the first one is the Knight of Cups. This is a proposition, an open-ended proposition with no cliffhanger. It does feel like it's going to come swinging, it's going to fail. Whatever this one is, it's going to come swinging, it's going to fail. This is a dead on arrival type of type of impeachment. We do also have here, we do have the Empress card, and Empress card is pretty much here. This is America's working as it should. However, it's not able to restrict that type of presidential power, presidential immunity from the president, or hold him accountable. This is the feminine energy, which tells me the feminine is going to be the one that's going to lead the way to impeaching Donald Trump, or trying to force a removal. It's going to be unsuccessful, but yet it will put him on the chopping block, if you will. We do also have here as well, we have the Three of Wands reversed. The Three of Wands reversed means overseeing destruction of the United States, or overseeing a presidential result or an outcome. It's reversed. It's saying that you're overseeing a result or an outcome, but because it's reversed, it's not something that destroys the United States. Removing the president will do exactly that. In hindsight, regardless of who it is, whether it was Trump or somebody else, it does tell me that this impeachment is not the right path to go, or the right path forward for the United States to take in terms of dealing with Donald Trump head on, because it will only embolden his supporters to rebel, and instead of conforming to the idea that they're in a cult and they need to get out of it, instead it's going to further consolidate and isolate them. You don't want to isolate, you want them to break out of it. And so by removing Trump through impeachment, it's going to isolate his supporters and prolong the progress of the United States. So that is what's being indicated here. So it does tell me here that impeachment is not the way to go with Donald Trump. What's the next one? We have resignation, or resigning from office. I forgot about the 25th Amendment. I did do a video on that. But anyway, let's take a look at resignation. Will Donald Trump resign from being in power at any point in time? Will Donald Trump willingly, on its own term, give up the powers of the presidency? What does this mean? Because the first card that comes in, we have the Ten of Cups, which means happy times, followed by the Eight of Cups reversed, which means not so happy times, right? It's indicating you're not wanting to walk away from the happy times. And you have the Hermit, which means the light being shined. Oh, okay, I get it now. Okay, so we're asking whether or not Donald Trump will willingly give up power of the presidency through via resignation. Because the Ten of Cups is up right here, is telling me that Donald Trump enjoys being president. He enjoys the immunity. He enjoys what it gives him, the benefits that is being provided as president of the United States. We do also have here as well, we have the Eight of Cups reversed, which indicate not wanting to leave, not wanting to walk away. This is saying no. No. And here you have it, the Hermit card, which means it's pretty obvious. You just got to know where to look. The light is being shined on his intentions. It's saying no. So will Donald Trump willingly resign from the office of the presidency on his own term? No. Okay, that also indicates as well as not only resignation, but also the peaceful transition of power from one president to the next. Alright, so with that being said, let's take a look at the 25th Amendment. Will the 25th Amendment be used to remove Donald Trump? Will the 25th Amendment be used to remove Donald Trump? Okay, here, the card that comes up is the Ten of Wands reversed. The path of least resistance. Not as much support in the cabinet. Not as much support in the cabinet. This is the Nine of Cups. It's telling me this is Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump, and these are all his loyalists. These are his cabinet members. The cabinet members are the ones who declare the 25th Amendment, including the vice president. And if they're all on board, they can oust the president of the United States. This is saying that they're all on board with Donald Trump. They're not going to attempt the 25th Amendment. I'm going to say no. Okay. I'm getting told to look at the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, Section 3. So Spiritual Angels tell me, I know it's a very long shot and it's very unlikely to happen, But just out of happenstance here, what about the 14th Amendment, Section 3, to force a removal of Donald Trump from power? We have here, there is still energy here, but it's uncertain of how it's going to be used. This is the strength card. If they were to pursue this, the 14th Amendment, Section 3, still seems to show signs of, essentially, it shows signs that it is so strong, it's still a functioning part of the U.S. Constitution, and it could be enacted if known how to use properly. This is what the strength card says, because we have here, we have the 5 of 1, 2. This would be the path of least resistance, which tells me that if you were to pursue the 14th Amendment, Section 3, if you do this correctly, it can go pretty successfully. However, there is an undetermined outcome, and the undetermined outcome is, will anyone be dared to take this up? Will anybody be dared to do the impossible, something that's never been done before? Or is anyone dared to do the unprecedented? So the 14th Amendment, Section 3 can remove Donald Trump, but because of the uncertainty factor, it does tell me it's unlikely for someone to take that up and to pursue that route. So I think it's very unlikely, but it's a very strong path forward for them to pursue, but it doesn't feel like anyone is going to be brave enough to pursue that. Okay, so let's do the next one. We have here removal. Well, we already talked about removal. Okay, we already talked about presidential panel. Let's talk about being dragged out. Will Donald Trump be dragged out of the the White House or out of the presidency? Will Donald Trump be forced out, whether by the National Guard, the military, the American people, Congress? Will he be dragged out by anything, being dragged across the lawn, whatever this means? Will Donald Trump be dragged out from power? I'm hearing the word guillotine. We have with certainty. So there's certainty here with the 2 of Pentacles reversed. So with certainty, there is an upset, which is the 9 of Swords here. So with certainty of an upset in imbalance. So what does this mean? This tells us here that it feels like if the country gets to a point where things are not the way they're supposed to be, or the people get upset, or the social contract, as stated earlier in this video, was to be broken or to not be abided by in any form, in any way, it does feel like in some instances or in some form, people may rise up and to try to force him out of power. That's what it feels like. It also could be indicated by the National Guard, the military, and all those things. But if anything, it does feel like this is more civilian-based than anything else. It feels like there will be a civilian or a large group of people who are going to try to pursue this, but it wouldn't necessarily be rooted in military or National Guard base. It feels like it would be American-made military, if that makes any sense. Okay. Alright, so now that we have being dragged out, let's talk about the military or the National Guard or FBI or whatever. Will there be any governmental agencies, whether it be military, National Guard, FBI, whatever it is, that will force Donald Trump out of the White House or out of power? I'm hearing the word underground. We have the 2 of Wands reversed. It's saying this is domestic, so whatever is domestic, so domestically underground, we have the 5 swords. I mean, not walking away, just pursuing a battle, pursuing a goal. So domestically underground, pursuing a goal. And this is the 7 of Cups reversed. I mean, for an idea or for a concept. So domestically underground, pursuing a goal for a concept. So it could be a plan. There could be a plan that could be insinuated or could be already underway or being drafted on how this would be done. And the question I asked is, is there any sort of governmental agency or any governmental organization that could pursue this route? It's telling me here that there's a plan, there's an idea, there was something here that would already insinuated. The question is can they act on that? That's the question. It doesn't tell me the energy's there to act, but the idea, the energy to think it is there. Okay. So now that we already talked about the impeachment, we already talked about the resignation, we already talked about the removal, we already talked about the presidential panel, we already talked about him being dragged out, we're going to ask about the death. And then we'll finish today's video. Alright, so Spirit Angel tell me, ooh, the death card just come down. Alright, so let's see. So this card's coming in again. This is the Seven of Cups. It's headed in the past tense. The past tense is telling us this had already occurred in terms of different reality, different timelines. So we have to be very careful when discussing about Donald Trump's death because it had happened already in multiple timelines. So the cards cannot easily decipher what timeline we're actually in because things keep changing. Keep that in mind. Okay, so Spirit Angel, tell me about Donald Trump. Will Donald Trump be removed from power or have his term ended abruptly due to death or due to an assassination? Anything like that. We have here the Ace of Swords, the Five of Wands reverse, and the Ten of Cups. It does indicate the most likeliest path for Donald Trump in terms of his term being ended or coming towards an end, would actually, believe it or not, would actually be through death. Would be actually the best outcome, not only for the United States, but also for the ending of the government or the ending of his administration. This would be the Ace of Swords, which means taking that sword and shoving it through the king or shoving it through the incumbent, removing them from power or removing them from the position of power, followed by the Five of Wands reverse, which indicates the path of least resistance, which means people wouldn't rebel, they would just accept that this was natural. And then here you have the Ten of Cups. It does come towards an end, the chapter comes to a close. Number 10 means a completion or a cycle or a new beginning. Because when you add 1 and 0 together, it makes 1, which means new beginning. So that's what this means. So if anything, if I were to say the likeliest outcomes are, the most likeliest of them all, I would probably say the Ace of Swords. I mean, not the Ace of Swords. I would say the death or possible assassination are the number 1 likeliest to remove him from power. The next thing I would say would be the 14th Amendment, Section 3 would be the second one. And I will also say as well, being dragged out by a governmental agency, because that seemed to be in a plan, but it's not being executed or organized at the moment, but it is a plan. So I would say those are the 3 likeliest outcomes based on what I'm seeing. But I hope this answers your question. I figured I'd do them all at once. So let me know in the comment section below what you guys think, what you've been getting, and I'll see you guys all next time. Until then, peace out. I love you, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.